Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. EDDBUD here, and today I've got my 100-mile review for you of the Adidas Boston 9. It's been a real blast in this Pink Panther over the miles, though with a couple of caveats. Upper-wise it's certainly taken a beating, and it's looking a little worse for wear in fairness. There's a few threads coming loose here and there, and some ingrained mud and grime from the hard-earned miles. Before we get into today's review, if you're a new viewer, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications of when we launch those new videos. And it also helps the channel out a huge amount if you give this video a thumbs up like. Right, with that out of the way, let's get to the review. As usual, we start with the upper first. I had to toy around with the upper fit a little bit here. I had some problems initially with the tongue slipping down in the Boston 9. Over the miles, I think it was a couple of long runs I did where the tongue had moved down and disappeared almost. I used a couple of the holes that are within the tongue to actually hold the tongue in place using the laces. And now that's just a distant memory. I've got to say, overall the upper fit here is quite unlike the SL20 or the Adizero Pro. Actually, I find it a little bit too roomy in comparison to those shoes. They fit like gloves, where this one fits like a glove of someone with a larger hand. Just a little too much upper for me in the 11.5 UK. Some of you might say,
Ed, why didn't you just size down?
Well, that wouldn't have worked because the length in the Boston 9 was absolutely perfect. So there's something strange there going on in terms of perhaps the last that they've used in terms of the upper, but just a little bit too much material for my liking. It meant that we had a little bit of bunching around the toe box area. Actually quite similar to some Asics shoes that I've tried out recently, where there's just way too much upper around this section of the shoe. It has to be noted that I have a regular width foot. I have measured it and it falls firmly in the regular, normal sort of foot width. Sadly, I have to report that there is a bit of wear in the heel area. Around that heel collar I've got a couple of holes in fact. They mainly appear in the heel padding on both sides of the shoe in the same places. I think at only 100 miles it's not really a welcome sight to see, and I think it could cause a bit of a problem over time with continued use. It does look a little bit like the parts of the shoe are different colours now. They've kind of faded some bits and they don't really match. It's kind of odd. Some bits maybe have dulled over time. I think that might put a few people off who like a consistent aesthetic appearance with their shoes. I did experience a bit of a shift in the upper over the first 15 or 20 miles. I had to retighten the laces on a couple of long runs. Certainly the upper's comfortable enough. I feel the lockdown was good. The lace length is enough there if you want to utilise a runner's knot, but I am a little bit disappointed in terms of the wear in the heel collar area. I think the shoe really fits into that long run category, and it was certainly comfortable over that distance, and I've used it for lots of short recovery type runs as well. So I'm going to reduce my score a little bit from the original initial score. It had a 2.5 initially. I'm going to reduce that to a 2.3 out of 3 for upper after 100 miles. Let's talk midsole now. So we have Boost here in the midsole with what appears to be a top sole of lightstrike. It's quite tough to say though where the lightstrike ends, where it begins. I'm not going to chop this shoe up because I just can't bring myself to do that. However the materials are laid out, I think it's a really winning combination. It felt great for me for easy recovery runs at around 8 minutes 15 seconds per mile, about 5:08 per kilometre. Ride up through to about 7 minutes 30 per mile or 4 minutes 40 tempo style runs. And I took those right up to about 15 miles, so about 24 kilometres. I think some heavier runners won't be satisfied with the level of cushion that's on offer within the Boston 9. I think really it's a bit of a middle ground between the SL20 and the Ultra Boost 20. The Adidas site says it's a 9.5mm heel drop here. It certainly feels like that. I think it makes the shoe versatile enough, and the weight is nimble enough to allow for pretty much most types of runs. My UK size 11.5 weighs in at 275 grams, which is 9.7 ounces. I've really detected no considerable change in the underfoot feel in the Boston 9 over the 100 miles. So I do think that the caged area of Boost here with the lightstrike really is working its magic. Perhaps it's providing a little bit of longevity to the Boost material. And one thing to note, the insole that's supplied with these, or the sock liner if you want to call it that, is one of the thinnest that I've seen. Barely there, almost sort of paper thin really. Don't expect any considerable cushion from that insole. I suppose you could throw a slightly thicker one in to boost the underfoot cushion. I don't think this is a shoe I'd really select for out and out speed work or high paced efforts. I don't think you probably pull it out for intervals or anything like that. But as a longer distance race offering, I think it certainly does have the chops for it. In terms of midsole, after 100 miles, I'm going to give this a 2.7 out of 3. Outsole time. In terms of outsole, it's an impressive performance here too. The Continental rubbers presented almost in a train track style fashion throughout the midfoot and the forefoot. And I gotta say, it almost shows no wear whatsoever at 100 miles or 161 kilometers, if you're that way inclined. There's a tiny bit of wear in the midfoot, but you've got to really look for it. I think it's actually outstanding in terms of the punishment that it's received so far. There's barely any signs of wear. Traction in wet weather has been absolutely superb in the Boston 9 so far, and there's been lots and lots of wet weather to try it with. Adidas continue to show their prowess in this field, always seem to pull out a really impressive outsole performance on almost every shoe. It's durable, but it's grippy. They just seem to work really well in all sorts of weather and terrains as well. The torsion section here is looking a little bit beaten up, but it's still doing its job well in terms of providing a little bit of rigidity there in the midfoot area and influencing a little bit as to where the midsole and the outsole should flex. I can't really fault this one in terms of outsole. There's nothing I can fault about it. It is a supreme outsole. After 100 miles, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 3. Value now. So the votes are in for value. Where do we stand? Don't worry, I'm not going to leave you waiting like a couple of days. I think at 120 Earth credits, this one's certainly going to appeal to lots of people. That's a really quite attractive price. People that are into a slightly lower profile shoe maybe, who are looking for something that's going to be durable, aside from the ankle collar bit, we'll overlook that for the moment, but has some longer distance race credentials as well. It shines pretty well a multiple range of paces, and it's certainly a shoe I really do recommend that you try out. Maybe like the dog attacked it or something, well, I didn't know. Or why would he have done it in exactly the same place? Lockdown in the upper is superb, I can't really fault it there. It's certainly breathable enough there, and strong enough to absorb all those training miles. Certainly a solid, well put together shoe, and sometimes you can find this quite heavily discounted. I in fact picked this pair up for 90 Earth credits, which is a real bargain. In terms of the retail price though, I've enjoyed it so far. I am going to knock off a couple of points for the wear that I've experienced in the heel. Aside from that though, it's holding up well. So a 2.8 out of 3 for value. I think if I was to compare the shoe against anything, it would probably be the SL20. Though I don't think that's got the long range chops that the Boston 9 has. If you're looking for an alternative to this shoe, if it perhaps hasn't worked for you, I think the closest other thing, although it's a lot heavier, is the New Balance 1080 V10. Lots of great cushion there and a really well put together upper in that one. A similar price too. So if I've added all the scores up correctly, that should give us a 10.8 out of 12 for the Adidas Boston 9. Hope we don't need a recount on this one. Have you been running in the Boston 9 recently, or perhaps one of the earlier iterations? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. You may have noticed a shoe just behind my ear. So I have got hold of the Rocket X from Hoka One One. I believe that is the correct pronunciation of that. Some people have said I was wrong. Don't think I am. Only been out for one run in this so far. I'm going to utilise it again today, and you should have my initial review tomorrow. Initial signs are though that the man from Del Monte, he says yes, which means I might have to eat a shoe. A film recommendation this time. One of my faves from the mid-90s is the Tom Hanks film, That Thing You Do. Some good sort of Beatles-y pop tunes in this one, with quite a cool story actually as well. I know lots of people who have almost been one-hit wonders really. They've had some big tune and then sort of disappeared and lived off that for a long time. And that's kind of the story here with the band that are featured within the film. By a stroke of fortune, they win a school musical contest and then get jettisoned into stardom really quickly. Perhaps too quickly actually for the characters to be able to deal with that stardom. I love the tunes in it though, really great, and there's some nice guitars in there too, including some Rickenbackers, which is never a bad thing. It's quite a light-hearted one, this one, a good sort of Sunday afternoon watch. So do go and check it out if you haven't ever seen it before. The Tom Hanks film, that thing you do. Okay, that's just about all for today, guys. Thanks for sticking with me to the very end. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and click the bell below for notifications of when we launch those new videos. It helps the channel out massively, I can't stress this enough, if you give this video a thumbs up like, and also share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD, and I'll be seeing you